Hi everybody, this is Kiana Mayfield from LibraLunaCenter.com and welcome to your weekly forecast for the week of June 26th through July 2nd, 2017. We have flown through June, people, and this last week of the month is pretty chill compared to what this whole month has been about thus far, right? With the season being in Gemini. Now that we are in Cancer, it's perceptible that the energy has slowed down dramatically, right? We're getting a chance to catch our breath, be at one with our feelings, and to prepare for the Leo season that will transpire after this, right? Okay, so we start off the week on Monday through Tuesday through the 26th. From the 26th through the 27th, we have the moon in Leo. And usually with the moon in Leo, it's a very fun, creative time. And this is true also, but since there's so much energy in Cancer right now, it's not, I don't see it as a very social time. I see it as more of a creative time within ourselves. So our imagination is stirred up, right? We're dreaming of what we desire. We are getting in touch with our own heart, right? Our own inner child. Also, you have Mercury, which will be making the same aspects that Mars has been making. So Mars is in square to Jupiter and in trine to Neptune retrograde. And Mercury will pass over these same spots. So there's not a lot happening on the surface. It's almost as if we're caught between two worlds, right? We're caught at the fork in the road, right? Mars in square to Jupiter. There are multiple doors, right? There are multiple doors you can unlock. But ultimately, there is only one door you truly want to open, right? Ultimately. And your instincts, your intuition, your feelings, your spiritual connection to your own center is pulling you, is attracting you towards what you truly, the door you truly want to open, right? But since Neptune is retrograde and Mars is in Cancer, which, it's in its fall position, right? Cancer doesn't just make decisions on a whim, right? It's not very ambitious and it's not very determined. It can be determined in an emotional way, but first there must be a process, right? An emotional process. There has to be comfortability, security before it can really truly feel comfortable stepping forward. And so with Mars in square to Jupiter, with all these doors and all these possible roads we can go down, and the pull towards which door we truly want to open, there's a lot of fear involved here, right? There's a lot of fear of the past repeating itself. Cancer, as this is activating the Neptune-Jupiter quincunx, Mars and Mercury activating this aspect, this overall aspect, right? We've been feeling this way for some time. But it is like These next few weeks are kind of the culmination of that energy, right? Of that fear, but also of the imagination, which it gives to us, right? So externally, we can feel somewhat directionless, right? Somewhat confused about which path to go down. But you know which path you want to go down, right? Internally. The internal desire, the internal intuition, the internal feeling is what will lead you to your truth, right? But with Neptune retrograde, it's all about believing in your own voice. It's all about believing in your own inner voice, right? Trusting what lies beneath the surface versus being afraid of it, versus being afraid that the past will repeat itself. It's about having faith, right? And faith comes from trusting in your own spiritual center. So the moon in Leo is stimulating our heart in a way that we are brewing underneath the surface with the dreams that we ultimately want to manifest, right? It's about using your imagination. So for the first half of the week, or basically the entire week, since we're having a bit of a down period until the very end, it's all right if you want to be alone, right? It's all right if you don't want to be around people, around energies outside of you, because we're in such a personal time, right? This is about processing how we feel personally. And there will be more of that as we move through the week. From the 28th through the 29th, on Wednesday through Thursday, we have Mercury and Mars meeting in a conjunction, 15 degrees. And as that happens, the moon will be in Virgo, a Mercury ruled sign, and it will be opposing for the first time since it's gone retrograde, Neptune. That will happen on Wednesday, and on Thursday it will oppose Chiron for the final time before Chiron goes retrograde. So, and Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, will be quickly moving past Mars and making a direct opposition to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, 18 degrees. And so, again, this is about our internal process, right? The week starts off very mellow, very withdrawn almost, very hermit crab-like, right? We're in our own shell, we're in our own personal world, and we're dreaming, we're creatively visualizing what's on the other side of our shell, right? And also reminiscing of the past, because it's Cancer, right? With the moon in Leo, we are reminiscing with our inner child, reminiscing with our childhood dreams even. But from Wednesday through Thursday, when the moon moves into Virgo, this is a very analytical time, right? This is a very not necessarily cutthroat, but there's a very detective-like energy during this time, right? There's a very investigative approach we are taking to our dreams, right? And so as we uncover what we desire, as we get in touch with our inner child from the first half of the week, as we are processing inside ourselves, right? Now we get into the specifics of what can actually be achieved. We get into the detail work, we get into the analytics of our dreams, right? This is the deep dive, the deep dive into what we can and cannot manifest, and also our subconscious issues that keep us from manifesting in the first place, right? With the moon in opposition to Neptune retrograde and Chiron, this is about where do we sabotage ourselves, right? Where does our own mind and our own need for logic in a negative way impact our ability to move forward, our ability to manifest? And many questions will be asked at this point. So, with the new intentions and the dreams that were planted, that were seeded during the new moon these past few days, right? The new moon in Cancer. Now, it's almost like we have to investigate our dream, right? We have to do a background check. And with Mercury in Cancer in opposition to Pluto, this is emotionally confronting what's beneath the surface, right? This is emotionally confronting what we've suppressed internally, and how we truly feel. And not only confronting it, but figuring out solutions, because the moon is in Virgo, figuring out solutions for how to fix our issues, how to fix and heal what's been suppressed, what has sabotaged us, what is our chain, right? Our chain to the prison that is keeping us in a world which does not emotionally satisfy us, right? Which is very much almost robotic, which is very much mundane and cold. From Friday through Saturday is when the energy will start to peak, right? Because we have so much going on. We have from the 30th, the last day of June, to the beginning of July, from the 1st to the 1st of July, we have the first quarter square of the moon in Libra. And the moon will be in conjunction to Jupiter. And so this will be activating the Cardinal Grand Cross, right? So we have the Sun, Mars, and Mercury in Cancer opposing Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and both of these aspects are in square to the moon, first quarter square of the moon in Libra, and Jupiter in Libra. So, and as that happens, Venus, Libra's ruling planet, which is in Taurus, will be in exact square to the nodal axis. And Chiron will be stationing retrograde 28 degrees Pisces, early morning, July 1st. So, this is intense pressure being activated, right? And it's the pressure to or between our emotional comfort levels, right? Where we personally are as individuals, right? That fine line between ourselves and the other will be activated, right? Will need to be tested, right? Because the moon conjuncting Jupiter is emphasizing our relationships, our a sense of harmony and equality, right? So where we've developed personally, where we've been, our history, right? what we have emotionally been through, where we have emotionally developed, right? Where we have matured. This will need to be cultivated, and we will need to use it to confront our relationships, right? And not just to confront our relationships themselves, but to come to some decision about the direction we are ultimately going to go down, right? Where our paths go together as a team, with Venus in Taurus and square to the nodes. This is the internal decision-making point, right? This is the yes or the no about what we truly feel we desire and want and need in our lives, right? What feels good to us and what doesn't. What do we ultimately value deeply and internally within the depths of our being, right? What will ultimately be a foundation which we wish to build upon, right? And what is not worth it, basically. And as this happens, Venus will be in quincunx to Saturn in Sagittarius. So what we ultimately desire, it's not as if the decision is easy to make, right? You'll feel it internally, you'll feel it emotionally, you'll feel it as a truth within you, right? Your instincts will lead you to your truth, right? But the decision, the desire, the outset of it is not clear yet. The journey from where you are now, from A to B, right? It looks weird. It looks almost like a haunted mansion we need to go down, right? Because we don't know what's on the other side of it. We don't know how ultimately things will pan out, or even if it is possible to manifest, right? So even though the desire is there, even though we know what it is, even though we know internally that, yes, this is something I want. This is something I want and need in my life, I feel, that I value, that I treasure, that I want to explore, ultimately, right? That means something to me. That brings me a sense of purpose in my life. That feels good internally, right? And the decision, the flip is there, right? Even though that is transpiring, the journey, the step-by-step process is still not clear, because it looks strange. It looks almost impossible. It looks as if it cannot be fixed. But given time, there will be a process that will allow it to culminate, right? But it's not about rushing it. Venus in Taurus and Mars in Cancer, you know, especially while Mars is in Cancer, this is not a time to push anything, right? This is not a time to make your decision and go super fast down the path, right? We take our time, we take it slow, we allow ourselves to emotionally digest what is happening. We allow ourselves to catch up. We need a time to become human again, right? Otherwise, if we just go, we're not allowing the experience to digest properly, and so we're not really learning anything through it, right? When you go too fast, you risk not indulging in the full experience. And this is what we want to do right now, right? We want to take this time for ourselves. We want to emotionally wrap ourselves around the decisions we're making in our lives. Because ultimately, this digestion process is what gives us ultimate meaning, is what gives this experience ultimate meaning, is what makes us feel human. So this is a deep meditative time. And as Chiron retrogrades, stations retrograde while this is happening, you know, Chiron being retrograde rips the band-aid off of our wounds, right? Where we've been burned, where we've been cut, it rips it off. It rips the band-aid where we've covered it and exposes the wound to the air. And so, not only is this a jolting process, right? It's also a time where our wounds, our past wounds, can be explored very, very deeply, right? Because most of us go through our lives as if, number one, the wound isn't there, and number two, holding on to our pain, right? Especially with Chiron in retrograde. Many times we mistake our own pain as our identity, right? We think, you know, this is the way it's always been for me. This is how I've always been. And so responding from that place, this is just who I am, right? But no, especially with Chiron and Pisces, right? This wound goes deeper than you or I, right? It goes deeper than the individual ego, than the individual personality. It rests inside of the Akashic records, right? Many times it's coming from something not even within our time period, something not even within our lifetime, right? Many times it's coming from past lives. Many times it's coming from ancestral inherited wounds we've received from our ancestors, right? That we've taken on karmically. We've been in this, right? We've indulged in it for so long that we believe it is us, right? That we are our pain, that our pain defines who we are, right? And this is not the case. And Chiron going retrograde is emphasizing this need to unravel the knot, to clear the karma, to clear the fears, the subconscious issues, the underlying pain that is not entirely within your control, right? That has been subtly influencing every decision you have made thus far, right? That has subtly been puppeteering your journey, because it is in square. It is in square to Saturn this entire year. And so where do our wounds keep us from moving forward? Where do our wounds even sabotage against our inner authority, right? Where do we project it? And as well, where do we internalize it?
I know I'm speaking in almost tongue because, you know, there's so much energy in Cancer right now. And I am a heavily air-influenced individual, and so this is not entirely comfortable for me.
But this is the time, right? So with Chiron retrograde, and many times you'll see this in people who have this aspect natally, Chiron retrograde, you have a decision to make, right? You can choose to repress your wound, to repress your pain, and stuff it. And it can manifest through the body. It can manifest internally as an issue that you feel like you can never heal, that you hold on to almost stubbornly, right? Like you're owning it, like you're claiming it, like you're possessing it, right? Or you can choose to alchemize your pain. because you realize that it does not originate in this dimension. It does not originate in this lifetime. It is something you've inherited, and you can transcend ultimately. Once you rip the Band-Aid off, once you allow air to hit it, right? Once you expose it to the elements, it heals naturally. I have Chiron, retrograde in my natal chart in Libra. And so with Chiron and Libra, usually you would see this aspect as some form of social rejection, right? Rejection within relationships, not just one-on-one, but like with everyone, like being cut off, like almost like your air supply is cut off from the rest of the group, right? From the rest of society. And so you can feel kind of isolated with Chiron in Libra direct. You usually see this in victims of bullying and other forms of social rejection. But with Chiron retrograde in Libra, it's not, you're not being affected externally, right? You know, I was never technically really bullied. I did experience some form of bullying, as I'm sure everyone has, but it's never been a huge factor, right? It's never been something that affected me so much. It's more so been about the rejection towards myself, right? That I felt internally, and it manifested externally. But it's a form of self-sabotaging, because what you feel internally reflects in your outer. And so this is a knot we must unravel. This is a Band-Aid we must rip off ourselves. No amount of therapy, no amount of talking it out can fix this, right? Especially Chiron retrograde. It is an internal process of coming to terms with your own pain, coming to terms with the fact that this pain does not originate within you. You are not your pain, right? It has been handed down. It has been inherited. It has been gifted to you. And what you choose to do with it ultimately depends on your own character and will influence the rest of your life. Whether you choose to repress or hold on to the pain, or to alchemize it, to transcend it, and to heal others with it, right? The wounded healer. Chiron is the wounded healer. And where you learn to heal your own wounds, this is where, Chiron in your own natal chart, this is where you will most affect and be able to heal others. And so, Chiron being retrograde, stationing retrograde at the end of this week on Saturday, early morning. This can be, a lot of people will be triggered emotionally back into their past wounds, back into their past karmic situations. They can be, but ultimately this is just the Band-Aid being ripped off so that the wound can be exposed to the air, and your body will begin to heal naturally, right? Or the wound will begin to heal naturally. And the wound is subconscious. The wound is inherited. The wound is not necessarily of this lifetime. So there will be a lot of karmic clearing going on. There will be a lot of spiritual, occult cleansing, you know, within your auric field going on. And you're coming to terms with your own past. You're coming to terms with what has transpired and how you have transformed through it, right? And so on Sunday, July 2nd, we have the moon moving into Scorpio. And before that happens, it will oppose Uranus, so there will be a lot of unpredictability on Sunday. This is when the energy will start to peak much more dramatically, getting a taste of what's going to happen next week. And as the moon moves into Scorpio, Mars will be opposing Pluto retrograde, exactly. And these two planets are rulers of Scorpio. And as that happens, Jupiter will finally move a degree forward. So it will go to 14 degrees in Libra. So this is setting off a chain of events that are unpredictable, but ultimately will lead to deep emotional confrontations within yourself, but also with Chiron retrograde, the karmic ties with others, right? And you're looking at your own self-sabotaging patterns. We're looking at our own emotional needs, ultimately what we desire versus the demands of society with Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. And where do we stand within society, right? Where is our place in the world? Where do we want to be ultimately? Where's our power? And as we confront what we really feel, the energy that has been stagnant starts to move forward. Jupiter moving forward. We're coming towards the end of a chapter, right? We're coming towards the start of a new one. The chapter won't officially end until the full moon in Capricorn, right? There will be the big turning of the page, right? But as we come to terms with what we feel internally and how it reflects externally, we're finding our power, right? We're seeing where our sabotaging patterns have almost seeped into our reality, right? Seeped into our relationships. And when we confront this is emotional cleansing, right? This is a cathartic release of what has been pent up, right? What we've suppressed because we believe we are our pain, right? No, go. What we've suppressed because, or what we've suppressed out of fear, right? Our own fear of what society expects of us, what we believe is our duty, what we believe is the responsible thing to do, right? Versus our own, coming to terms with what we ultimately need to feel satisfied emotionally, to feel connected to each other, what we ultimately need. And as we come to terms with that, this is about communicating it, right? Because how can you expect anyone to fulfill? Not that you would, but how can you expect it? And how can you look for it when you haven't communicated what you need to feel emotionally satisfied? And with Jupiter direct now, right? As we came to terms with our own inner sense of imbalance, sense of inequality, sense of inner disharmony while Jupiter was in retrograde. Now that we've come to terms with that process, right? Now that we have developed our own inner equilibrium, it has to reflect in the outer world, right? And so we can't be afraid to express what we need emotionally, right? What we need to feel emotionally satisfied, to feel comfortable, to feel intimately connected with the world as well as our relationships, right? This communication, this confrontation is what we need to move forward, because we cannot press the go button until this is resolved. Otherwise, it will continue to plague the story. It will continue to plague the next chapter. And this is not what we want to do, right? Ultimately, we need to allow these emotions to come up, right? To rise to the surface, boil over the cauldron, right? And cathartically release and express how we truly feel, not only internally, but externally, right? To the set traditional way of doing things, we need to break the pattern, right? Breaking the pattern is the only way to break the cycle, to break the karmic tie, to break the karmic cycle that has been creating this pain, creating this suffering, creating these subconscious issues, right? These emotional complexes that have kept us in this bubble of fear, right? We break the fear by breaking the pattern. And this week is all about coming to terms with our own patterns, right? By diving deep within our own selves, within our own emotional bodies. Meditating on it, right? Preparing emotionally for the new start that will occur during the new moon in Leo, right? Which is a ways away. July 23rd, I believe, is when the new moon in Leo occurs. And that won't be for some time, but we are in the stage of preparation for it. And this is the mounting up. This is the preparing for the eruption of the volcano. The volcano is preparing to erupt, right? And it will do so during the full moon in Capricorn. Next week, July 8th, is when this full moon will occur. And as that happens, Venus and Mercury will be getting ready to change signs. Venus will go into Gemini, Mercury will go into Leo. And this will dramatically shift the energy, right? We'll get a taste of the summer season. It'll start to feel like summer at long last, right? Versus almost like a preliminary in-between period with all this Cancer energy. The summer season will truly begin to activate, and there will be the final quincunx of Jupiter and Neptune occurring next week as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastic week. Make sure you're spending time for yourself, because this is what this is all about, right? Before the pressure begins to mount at the end of the week, take this time for yourself. Take this time to meditate on your feelings. Take this time to withdraw from the world, escape into your own dreams, right? This is the time of fully permitting yourself to escape, right? Fully permitting yourself to explore your feelings without any outside pressure from the rest of the world, from your duties and responsibilities, right? And as you emotionally culminate this sense of self, you are preparing for what is to transpire over the next several months. Because as we move into the Leo season, or even with this full moon in Capricorn, which will set it off, but it will truly start at the new moon in Leo at 0 degrees. It's almost like we'll be going nonstop, right, for the next several months, because there will be stuff happening almost every single week, right? It will be nonstop go, right, towards what we're emotionally processing right now. So take this time to digest it. Take this time to emotionally ready and prepare yourself for these next few months. And I will see you guys next week. July horoscopes will be coming out incrementally, so be on the lookout for those. And if you want to have a personal reading with me, I have links in the description for you to be able to do so. I will see you all next week, and have a wonderful, wonderful Cancer season.